Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark.
Updates in the ongoing WNBA CBA negotiations, and there is a brand new wrinkle to the storyline as it's been reported that there is a Saudi-backed basketball league that will be kicking off next season, and this could truly change everything.
Hey, is this enough to entice Caitlin Clark? $20 million deal, 30, 40, 50 million.
Welcome back to Clark Hoops Nexus. Today, we've got some massive news, and you're going to want to hear this. Make sure you stay with us until the very end because we're breaking down all the critical details and reactions. No filler, so let's get straight into the story. Everything we thought we knew about professional sports could be about to change. For months, the drama surrounding Caitlin Clark has been filled with accusations of jealousy and petty rivalries. But while the WNBA controversy continued to grow, powerful investors were reportedly watching closely. We're not talking about another shoe deal or a standard max contract. We're talking about a potentially billion-dollar disruption that Stephen A. Smith has reportedly discussed on air. According to circulating reports, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund could be exploring opportunities in women's basketball, with Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham being mentioned as potential targets. Such a move could create a powerful rival to the WNBA, potentially giving top players another major platform. Stephen A. Smith has repeatedly warned that if the league fails to protect and properly market its biggest stars, other organizations could eventually capitalize on that opportunity. To understand why this has created so much attention, just look at who's driving the conversation. Stephen A. Smith has been one of the most outspoken voices discussing the treatment of Caitlin Clark. While some analysts have described the physical play as part of normal competition, Smith has argued that the league needs to take player protection and the business value of its biggest stars much more seriously. He screamed on national TV that the league was fumbling one of the greatest opportunities it had ever been handed. He pointed to issues like Clark flying commercial, the controversial hip check from Kennedy Carter, and her Olympic team snub. But his latest comments have shifted from simple criticism to a much bigger warning. The market always corrects itself. Smith argued that a league paying a global star around $76,000 a year when her broader commercial value could be worth hundreds of millions cannot expect to control that opportunity forever. He suggested that the old guard believed they could simply make Clark wait her turn, but in the modern sports economy, players have more leverage than ever. If these outside investment rumors are accurate, Smith's argument becomes even more significant. His message is essentially this: loyalty can disappear the moment players feel undervalued or disrespected. So let's look at the numbers. Under the WNBA's previous rookie salary structure, Caitlin Clark's 4-year rookie contract was worth roughly $338,000, with her first-year salary around $76,000. That's dramatically different from the enormous commercial value attached to her name. Since entering the league, Clark has helped drive massive attention to women's basketball, with major increases in attendance, television audiences, merchandise demand, and overall media interest. The debate over how much of that value should flow directly to players has become one of the biggest business questions in the sport. And that's why the rumors surrounding Saudi investment have attracted so much attention. The public investment fund operates on a scale far larger than a traditional sports franchise. If reports of a potential billion-dollar investment in a new women's basketball venture were ever confirmed, the pitch to a superstar like Clark would be about far more than salary. It could involve ownership opportunities, endorsements, media exposure, and the chance to help build an ent. They controlled the players, the money, and the schedule. Then Saudi-backed LIV Golf entered the picture with massive financial offers to top players. The media went wild, with critics accusing the project of sports washing while supporters argued that the players were simply taking advantage of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The disruption was so significant that the PGA Tour eventually entered negotiations with Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. Now, some online speculation is drawing comparisons between that situation and the future of women's basketball. The WNBA has faced long-running debates over player salaries, travel conditions, revenue sharing, and the treatment of its biggest stars. If a heavily funded outside league ever decided to target those stars, the existing basketball landscape could change dramatically. Caitlin Clark would obviously be one of the most valuable names any new league could pursue because of her enormous audience and commercial appeal. But you cannot build an entire league around one player. You need rivalries, personalities, and supporting stars. That's where speculation surrounding Sophie Cunningham comes in. Why Cunningham instead of established superstars like Breanna Stewart or Aya Wilson? The argument is simple: marketability. Cunningham has developed a strong following through her playing style, personality, and growing presence on social media. She has the kind of recognizable personality that brands and broadcasters love. There is a reason cameras and fans continue to pay attention to her. If a new women's basketball league ever wanted to create a roster filled with highly marketable personalities, pairing Caitlin Clark with Sophie Cunningham would certainly generate enormous attention. You get the gritty, charismatic presence of Cunningham alongside a generational talent like Clark. On paper, there would be a powerful combination for launching a new basketball property. Stephen A. Smith has repeatedly emphasized the importance of having recognizable stars who can attract viewers, sell tickets, and generate attention. Clark and Cunningham certainly have that kind of visibility. But now we have to ask why Clark would even consider leaving the league she dreamed of joining. Rejecting a massive outside opportunity might be easier if the WNBA had consistently made her feel embraced and protected, but criticism surrounding her treatment has been growing since she entered the league. Even before her professional career began, Diana Taurasi warned Clark about the physicality and challenges waiting for her in the WNBA. Once the season started, Clark faced intense defensive pressure, physical contact, and several controversial plays that generated widespread debate. The incident involving Kennedy Carter became one of the biggest examples, with critics arguing that the contact crossed the line while others viewed it as part of competitive basketball. Stephen A. Smith strongly criticized the situation and questioned whether the league and Clark's teammates were doing enough to protect its biggest star. The larger point became impossible to ignore. If an outside organization ever offered Clark dramatically more money, greater control, and a platform built around her global popularity, the WNBA would have a serious challenge on its hands. WNBA veterans had no intention of simply passing the torch, at least according to the narrative surrounding Clark's early years in the league. She entered the WNBA facing enormous expectations, intense defensive pressure, and constant media scrutiny. In that kind of environment, the idea of having an exit strategy can sound appealing. If another league offered Clark dramatically more money, greater control, and a platform built around her popularity, the question would naturally become why she should stay if she felt undervalued. And this isn't the first time someone has tried to lure Clark away. Remember the Big Three? Ice Cube publicly discussed the reported $5 million offer for Clark to play a limited number of games in his 3-on-3 league. Clark ultimately chose to remain focused on her WNBA career and her goal of competing at the highest level of women's basketball. But that was before years of additional controversy and scrutiny surrounding her professional career. Now, if the reported Saudi-backed opportunity were ever confirmed, an offer on that scale could make previous proposals look small. The biggest difference would be the infrastructure. A fully funded rival league wouldn't simply be a side opportunity. It could potentially offer players a completely different basketball ecosystem, with different compensation structures, travel arrangements, scheduling, and commercial opportunities. That is why these rumors have generated so much attention. Ice Cube's offer demonstrated that Clark's market value extends far beyond her WNBA salary. A massive new investment could take that idea to an entirely different level. Now, the Saudis are showing they have the capital to make a major investment permanent. Let's step back and look at this from the perspective of WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. If these rumors were ever confirmed, the league could face a serious business challenge. The WNBA has been pursuing a major new media rights agreement, with networks and streaming platforms competing for women's basketball content. Much of the league's recent commercial momentum has been connected to the enormous attention surrounding Caitlin Clark and other emerging stars. If Clark were to leave for a rival league, the WNBA could potentially lose a significant portion of that momentum. The question would then become whether broadcasters would still be willing to pay the same premium for a league without its biggest current attraction. That could also affect future revenue growth and ultimately, player compensation. The irony is obvious. If the league's biggest stars ever felt pushed away, the financial consequences could reach everyone. Stephen A. Smith has repeatedly made a similar argument about the business value of protecting and properly supporting the players who drive the most attention. But let's also remember that the Saudi investment story remains speculation unless credible sources officially confirm the details. We saw a similar debate when Saudi-backed LIV Golf entered the golf world, proving just how disruptive enormous outside capital can be when it targets an established sports ecosystem.